Welcome to the Sleep Sense Show. As always, brought to you by the Sleep Sense program, where podcast listeners can get a free customized sleep plan by going to www.sleepsense.net/listen.
Hi, this is Dana. Welcome to the show. I can remember when I had my first son about 15 years ago now, and I struggled with his sleep. That's basically how Sleep Sense became a thing. I realized finally, about 5.5 months in, that there might be something I can do to help this child sleep better. But back when he was a newborn and in the first few months of his life, he was not sleeping well. He would go 8 hours straight with no sleep at all and just get so overtired that he'd end up just screaming the house down for hours at a time. It was really a frustrating period of my parenting experience, as it is for many a parent. And I can remember at the time sort of asking around a little bit, you expect sleepless nights in the first few months, but this was going into month 4 and 5, and he was not sleeping any better than he had when he first came home. And so, you mention it. That's what people do when you're having a conversation with other moms or with your, grandma or your in-laws or the nurse that's visiting or the doctor even. You mention here and there that this child's not sleeping so well. And then every now and then you hear this sentence, and it goes something like, well, you might have to just let him cry it out. Or you should let him cry it out. Or you shouldn't let him cry it out. You will also hear. And all you hear is the sentence, that one sentence. And that's kind of it. People move on and conversations change. And I can remember at the time being sort of dumbfounded really by that advice. It doesn't make any sense if you don't have any context around it. It's kind of the same as saying, oh, just stick your baby with a needle. You should stick him with a needle. I mean, it really makes about as much sense. If you don't know, if you don't have the backstory, you don't know why this baby's not sleeping well, then how is letting him cry it out going to help? And so, as the months went by and I started to slowly realize that, yes, I might have to actually do something to help this child sleep well, and then started my business helping other people teach their children to sleep well, this whole cry it out discussion has continued. And so I want to talk a little bit today about what it means to say that and why people say it, and talk a little bit about how the Sleep Sense program, is an alternative to whatever people think cry it out means. So, and that's really what it comes down to, is when we talk about training a baby to sleep well or teaching a baby to sleep well, people automatically assume that I mean, let's just put her in her crib and close the door and we'll see her in the morning. And that's not at all what I'm prescribing for anyone. And the thought is somehow that crying eventually makes babies sleep well. And that doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. So let's break it down. I always say you need to understand the why before I can tell you about the how. If you don't understand why this baby's not sleeping well, you won't have any motivation to change, because you won't understand why what you're doing is not working, how it's not going to ever work, and why you need to make the changes that you need to make. So I want you to think about going to sleep at night, what you do to get yourself ready. I would imagine you do some sort of routine that involves brushing your teeth, at least, I hope, for your partner's sake, and getting yourself prepared for bed. Once you climb into bed, most people are very habitual about the things they do once they've climbed into bed. They might need to make sure the environment is just so. For example, I always get in on the same side of the bed. I have my pillow that must be present. I need to have my earplugs on standby just in case my husband starts to snore, and I need a glass of water. Now, could I sleep if all of those things were different? Sure, I could. I wouldn't like it, and I'd have some anxiety around it because things are different, And around sleep in particular, we do not like change. We don't like surprises. We like everything to be the same. And that's why we don't sleep as well when we go to a hotel or go stay, with friends or family. It's different. So even the positions that we get into are usually the same. You might start out relaxing on your back, and then when you're ready and you feel like sleep is approaching, most people turn into their favorite sleeping position. And this is what, look at it tonight and have a good look, and you'll see that I'm right, that things are the same. So those are your strategies. That's basically your way of getting yourself ready, making the journey into sleep easier. It's peaceful, it's calm, it's the same. There's no surprises. Hopefully you fall asleep quickly and stay asleep all night. So what happens to babies then? Why don't they do this? Well, for most babies, they make the journey into sleep with help. And that help comes in the form of bottle feeding to sleep or breastfeeding to sleep. It could be rocking the baby to sleep, bouncing on a yoga ball, pacing the hallways, you name it. That it's whatever your baby decides is the way he or she gets to sleep. And those are the most common, and there's some that get a little out of the realm of normal, but still normal, like playing with mommy's hair or, holding hands or being patted to sleep. Those are all other things that can become what I call a prop. So the prop for the baby is really the issue. It has nothing, I'm not saying don't feed babies. I'm not talking about feeding really at all. I'm talking about associating feeding with sleep. So a baby thinks, this is how I fall asleep. I get a thing in my mouth or I get jiggled and I make this journey into sleep. So when they have a naturally occurring wake up later in the day, the night, or the day if they're taking a nap, then that's problematic because they're awake and they don't know how to get back to sleep. So they cry because that's all they can do. And you come and you provide all the things that you gave them initially to get them to sleep. When they go back to sleep, a few hours later, they're awake again and you do the same thing. So that is why your baby is waking up in the night a lot longer than you had hoped or imagined. And this could be 6 months, this could be 10, this could even be 2 years or older even, that your child is waking up because they don't have the internal skills, I call them independent sleep skills, that they need to handle any little wake up in the night on their own. Okay, I hope that makes sense. That's as clear as I can explain it. And so in order to teach your baby to sleep well, you have to break the association with the prop. You have to say goodbye to those props and teach your baby a new way, an independent way of falling asleep. All right, so there's a change that has to happen, and we all know that change is hard, and we don't handle change well, and we're not very good at it. So asking a baby to try a brand new way of going to sleep is going to cause some problems for her, right? She doesn't know how to do this. She can't tell you, hello, I don't prefer this. I would like you to go back to the old way, please. So all she can do is cry. It's her way of saying, I don't know how to do this. What should I do? I'm tired. I would like to go to sleep and I don't know how. So that's basically what she's communicating to you with her displeasure. And it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, if I asked you to totally rearrange the way in which you get to sleep every night, you would protest. You probably wouldn't cry because you're an adult and you know how to handle your emotions, but maybe you would. I mean, if I asked you to sleep in a whole new way, you might cry. I don't know, but hopefully not. But a baby, you can understand why they would cry. They don't know how to do this. So that's where the crying piece comes in. It's a change. It's a new way of figuring out how to get to sleep. And the crying is basically a side effect or short-term response to learning a new skill. So if I were teaching my kids a new skill, let's say swimming, that's a skill that I taught all my kids. It was mandatory. You're learning how to swim. It's non-negotiable. Whether you like it or not, it's happening. But to teach them how to swim does not just involve walking over to the edge of the deep end and throwing them in. It involves getting lessons. It involves encouraging them. It involves giving them practice. It involves, standing on the edge of the pool cheering them on. So I can support them and I can provide the opportunity to learn, but I can't learn it for them. I can't swim for them. They have to learn the skill of swimming. So the same is true with this. It is a skill. I'll argue till my dying breath that this is a skill set, that we all have to have good sleep skills in order to sleep well. And the good news is that they learn these skills pretty fast. I mean, even if you've got a 2-year-old who has not slept independently before, within, 3 to 5 nights, she's figuring this out. And if you're there, you can see that she's, she always turns onto that side, or she's doing something with her teddy that is soothing for her. I mean, they will figure out a way to put the pieces together and start falling asleep independently. Okay? So there's lots of different ways to do this. I'm not saying my way is the only way, but what people think of when they think of crying it out is usually that you throw her in the deep end and walk away, right? Like you just put this wide awake baby in her crib for the first time ever, and you walk out of the room and close the door and you see her in the morning. And that's hard, right? I get it. That's hard for people to take. Even if you've convinced yourself it's for the best, it's still a pretty hard process. And it's that piece that usually makes people super uncomfortable, and so uncomfortable that they don't ever do anything. And they're still struggling with their kids well into, double digits even. So that's what holds people back. It is that idea that, I'm throwing you in the deep end and you're going to figure this out and you're going to learn how to sleep. So to me, that's what traditional or classic cry it out means. And that's why a lot of people get up in arms about it when they hear the word sleep training or sleep teaching. Now, if we believe that this is a skill set, which I have already said I do, then why do you need to go anywhere, right? Again, if we're teaching a child a skill where we could be there encouraging and supporting them and cheering them on and giving them the right environment and helping with the timing so they're not getting overtired. I mean, there's lots of things we can do as the parent to make sure the situation is optimal, like make sure that they have every opportunity to become the beautiful sleeper they're about to become. And we could be there while they learn how to do this independently. So the Sleep Sense program offers parents that option, right? And there's nothing about you leaving that magically makes a baby sleep. It's nothing about crying that magically makes a baby sleep. It's about learning a new skill. And so whether you're there or you're not there, they're still going to learn the skill. And if it makes you feel better to be there, being that supportive presence in the room, then stay. By all means, please stay. There are some rules to what you do while you are staying, and I would encourage you to pick up a copy of the Sleep Sense program. I'm going to walk you through that step by step to make sure that we're doing this right so that we don't accidentally incorporate ourselves into their new strategies for sleep. Then we have a brand new problem. We have to start from zero and do this again. So there's some do's and don'ts if you're staying, but you don't need to go anywhere. And the cool thing about staying is that you can see. You can see what they're doing. You can watch the skill emerge right before your eyes, and that is pretty cool. So I know that there's talk, in on the internet and in your mommy's groups and all over the place that somehow crying, there's a whole thought process of, well, the baby just learns to stop crying because no one ever comes, or they just like give up, right? They just become like poor little souls in their bed, just giving up on anyone coming for them ever, and so they don't cry anymore. But no, it's just no, that's not what happens. It's skill. It's about the development of skills. And if you haven't gone anywhere, guess what? The crying still stops. Right? Because they figured out, oh, I don't actually need that bottle in my mouth to fall asleep. I can do it this whole new way. And this way is actually better because I can manage any wake up I have in the middle of the night. I can sleep more consolidatedly, which is perfectly good and wonderful for everybody, but in particular children. They really shouldn't be having full wake ups in the middle of the night, past that's a different debate, but certainly into the 6 months and up age range, we really don't need them to be having, prolonged periods of being awake in the middle of the night. They should be pretty seamless by that age. So, I mean, I only see it as win-win here, people. I mean, teaching them a skill that they can use for the rest of their life, get them good quality consolidated sleep so they are at their optimal health, meeting their milestones, doing great in school, staying healthy. We know that sleep, we've learned, certainly over the last 10 years or so, how important sleep is to the very foundation of our health and happiness. We now know that not sleeping well pretty much touches every aspect of our life, from our mood to our fitness, to our weight, to our IQ, to our productivity. It's just so important, right? I cannot stress it enough how important it is. And it's important for you, and it's important for your children, and it's important to the health of your family. You cannot be the best parent, partner, sister, daughter, friend if you're barely getting by on 3 or 5 hours of sleep every night. It's just there's no human being that can do that. So, there's no point in being a martyr to this. You can fix it. And it's not going to be as hard as you think it is. So I want you to give it some thought at least. Again, doesn't have to be my way, but you do need to teach your children the skills to sleep well. And I tell you, it's a beautiful gift to give them. Thanks so much for listening today. Sleep well.
Thanks so much for listening. For more great tips on helping your child sleep through the night, remember to subscribe, rate, and review the show on iTunes or Stitcher, and never miss an episode.